everybody. How y'all doing? It's been a little while. I hope you've all seen episode 5 of season 3, Nicholas of NF Boxing. It's out there. It's available on Spotify and YouTube and Apple Podcasts and everywhere you can get your podcasts. And like I did before with episode 3 of season 3, I'd like to do a recap. I think that this is a chance for me to kind of talk about the subjects that we covered and kind of, share some of my story with you, and let you get to know me more. I have spent, let's look at my watch. I've spent maybe 2 hours trying to adjust things and trying to get the lighting right and just trying to figure out what time of day to record. And I'm kind of a night person, but it's really because I have so much to do throughout the day, and so it's hard to make time. And so I am more comfortable at night. I'm more comfortable doing interviews in the afternoon to the evening time, and I think that this is going to be good. I think that recaps will be done just like this. So episode 5, I got to interview Nicholas of NF Boxing, and he's been a boxer for 10 years and trains very heavily. And it's super awesome, and I love boxing. I wish I could train like that, but we talked pretty deeply about narcissistic family dynamics. And in the episode, we talk about Nicholas's experience with that, with his family, and I share a little bit about my experience because that's the same dynamic in my family. So I think it's important to kind of talk about this because it's so prevalent. And also it's unique as well. It's more common than we realize, but it's also not really talked about as much because there's so much shame around abuse and shame around not having picture perfect families and, things like that. People say, it's your family, your family blood is thicker than water, and, that there's this cookie cutter approach to every family, and that's just not the case. If that were the case, then people would be going to therapy for other reasons besides, this happened in my childhood and this is what I experienced with my family, and on and on. It really comes from your family, and not to just really criticize everybody's families, but it's important to tell the truth, and that's why I have the show in the first place. So I just feel like it's important to talk about dysfunctional families and the effect that they have on us, and the effect that it's had on me. So narcissistic family dynamics look like abusive households, but just like in the previous recap that I made, it's a dynamic that mirrors cults. So there is generally a charming leader, a charming parent that kind of runs and controls the family. A narcissistic parent may use a narcissistic person is someone that uses control and manipulation kind of as their form of attachment. So kind of withholding love would be an example, or transactional love, helping a child, but kind of holding that over their head. Abuse in the sense of, attacking someone's self-worth so that if they don't feel confident enough, they won't pursue other relationships, so other friendships, romantic relationships, or closeness with other people, because they don't feel worthy enough. So that is a technique that a narcissistic person would utilize, because their intention is to disempower or oppress their victims and keep them in a state of kind of needing them in a way. So a healthy relationship or a healthy dynamic would include some equality. It's a give and take type situation, but that does not work in a narcissistic dynamic, including families. There is not an equal playing ground. There is always oppression. Someone is always abusing their power in that situation. And so in my experiences, I've had romantic relationships, work relationships, housing relationships, which I'm experiencing now, that are narcissistic in nature, where they kind of try to get you to bend to their will. It's not an equal give and take type relationship. And in my family, I experienced lots of abuse, lots of, you're crazy for wanting to start a podcast. You're crazy for wanting to move away. You're crazy for wanting to pursue the things that are important to you and that, that you think that you might be good at. Anything that I thought I could be good at really was not supported at all. And I want to kind of give a disclaimer that every sibling in a family has a different experience. That you don't have the same parents, even if you do, if that makes sense. You don't have the same experience with your parent as your sister or your brother does, regardless of age or, anything like that. You're experiencing a different parent because you're a different person. And so in my family dynamic, I experience being the black sheep. And so that is what typically happens. It has to kind of fall on someone else. A narcissistic person is someone that has a lack of empathy, low empathy, and they're unable to take accountability for themselves. So they are always projecting, they're always gaslighting. I talk about this with Nicholas in this episode, gaslighting, denying someone's reality. They'll deny that they did anything wrong to be hurtful to you, so that you kind of overthink, and eventually you lose trust in your own intuition. If somebody's mean to you and it affects you negatively, then that's what happened. But a narcissistic person might say, you're being too sensitive, or you're being dramatic, or they'll belittle it in some way. They will do anything and everything they can to remove that blame. Because in all honesty, a narcissistic person is someone that is not emotionally mature. They're not emotionally developed. And a narcissistic person is somebody that it's created. It's someone that, we talk about nature versus nurture. I know that there's some research around the nature aspect, the neurobiological aspect of what creates a narcissistic person. But the nurture part is really more relevant. If you consider epigenetics, your environment can influence your genetics for better or worse. But the nurture part, how you were raised, how you were treated in your environments, especially in your family, shapes your personality, shapes how you treat people, shapes how you treat yourself, how you think about yourself, how you view the world. Our families show us how to be a human being. And so the nurture aspect of what creates a narcissistic person is highly dependent on your family environment, where you grow up. And so a narcissistic parent may kind of give someone the label, employ someone to be the black sheep. There's a golden child, someone that they overly praise, and then just the opposite, the black sheep. And this is relevant and important because the narcissistic person will use tactics to get people to support the golden child and disempower and oppress the black sheep. So kind of laughing or never taking the black sheep child's goals or dreams seriously, kind of trying to ensure that they don't have the self-confidence to pursue that. So that's what I experienced. That's what I am experiencing with my family. And I would like to also disclose that although I am sharing some pretty candid things about my life and my family, I have love for my family, regardless of the abuse I've experienced. So, two truths can exist at the same time. I can have grown up and kind of exist in a abusive family dynamic, and I can also have had wonderful memories and love for those people as well. Those things can exist. And in addition, there can be an additional truth that although I love these people, I don't think it's healthy, emotionally safe for me to be close with my family. So all of those can be true all at once. And so I also want to kind of make sure that these terms are clarified. So I will kind of give some space to defining these words, like at the end of the video or in some reels or something like that on Instagram. But I just want people to kind of really know what these dynamics look like and what these terms mean. And it might provide some healing and some insight for others that have been through this. So I want to mention a term called triangulation. That's really that dynamic that I described of the golden child and the black sheep. If a narcissistic person experiences like an ego wound, so let's say the narcissistic parent is trying to reprimand or abuse, really, the black sheep. If the black sheep, speaks up for themselves, and perhaps tells the narcissistic person the truth about themselves, about a situation, then that narcissistic person may experience an ego wound. And in response to that, there is projection. No, this is not, that's not the case. I didn't do that. You're exaggerating. You're crazy, X, Y, and Z. But they will also use the golden child and other family members to reinforce their delusion, their lack of reality, because that narcissistic person does not want to take responsibility. They will get other people to prove that they're right, even if they're wrong. This is how they stay in that delusion throughout their lives, because they'll always find people people that are mutual friends or family members or coworkers or what have you, to reinforce their delusion against that other person. So it's important to kind of recognize that, because people that have gone through these dynamics or that are suffering in these dynamics right now, they are getting an eye-opening experience of how easily manipulated their loved ones are, that their brother or sister or friend or coworker would be willing to believe lies and gossip about them, that they didn't, maybe really check into, but just kind of reinforces the narrative of the narcissistic person. So you could easily lose, trust in these people and feel betrayed because they are not coming to your aid. And in fact, they're kind of, they're engaging in the abuse. So it's hard to get through these experiences because you can lose a lot of people. You can lose the emotional safety with these people that you may have known your entire life. So triangulation is when a narcissistic person kind of teams up. They get a peanut gallery to kind of rally against the black sheep, the person being abused. There's another term called flying monkeys, and it's in relation to the triangulation. The flying monkeys are in relation to the Wizard of Oz. They serve their master, they serve the witch, and so flying monkeys are really the people that the narcissistic person has been able to manipulate. So they've crafted this narrative, this whole story. People have bought this story, siblings, coworkers, what have you, and they're, kind of on guard. They're on attack for any time that the narcissistic person is challenged. This happened in my family months ago, but it really was the last straw, I guess I can say, that it was not really very clear why some of my siblings immediately, attacked me. It's that they've been conditioned to do so. They've been conditioned to not question if something is right or wrong. But if that narcissistic person, parent, kind of instructs them to speak up for them, they will. And we see this in politics as well. there's just blind loyalty, just like in the cult example that I gave in the last recap. So flying monkeys are those people that have been conditioned and manipulated to attack the black sheep. There are things that you can do as a victim of narcissistic abuse, no matter what the dynamic is. A lot of people say, well, why don't you just leave? That's not always the easiest thing to do or the safest thing to do. Narcissistic people tend to manipulate access to resources, so financial resources, so that somebody can't leave, or, even if it's credit, or a narcissistic romantic partner may, try to destroy someone's credit so they are unable to get financial resources or housing or things of that sort to ensure that they have control over them. There are things that you can do if you're in an argument with a narcissistic person and you're wanting to protect yourself. There's a term called gray rocking, and it really is what it sounds like. It's really kind of not giving any emotional responses to a narcissistic person. A narcissistic person is wanting you to respond, to be in your emotions, to be dysregulated. In other words, For an example, perhaps they'll bring up a fight on the way to a dinner with the person that they're with, their child or romantic partner or coworker, intentionally to just upset that other person to get an emotional response. So, by the time you arrive at the dinner, the argument is kind of at the forefront, and that other person may be crying or just visibly upset, and then going into a situation in public, it's that narcissistic person then can just switch off what they were doing and put on a happy face and then look at that other person like, why are you so upset? Because other people are going to see that you're the one upset. It's not them, but they didn't see what happened in the car. You know what I mean? So they're really manipulating that situation and sabotaging that experience to gain emotional control. So gray rocking is a great tool to kind of shut that down. It's really giving emotionless responses, not having an emotional reaction, but having a thought out response where you're just giving 1 or 2 word answers. When you catch on to what that person is trying to do to you, they're messing with you psychological warfare. You can just shut it down, because without your participation, it doesn't work. So gray rocking is really just kind of shutting down what you would normally do so that you can get through that experience, that conversation, that weekend, that period of time you have to be with that narcissistic person. And they really haven't gained anything. And over time, they may realize that you are not easily manipulated. And so they may actually kind of try to abuse someone else, And typically a narcissistic person is abusing more than one person, but they're ensuring that there's enough people that see a different side of them that they would never suspect that. So there's another term or technique that Dr. Ramani, I'll give some resources here at the end of the recap episode, mini episode. And it's called the DEEP technique. DEEP stands for don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, and don't personalize. Don't defend yourself, even if someone is clearly making up an obvious lie. Just let them have that. Give them 1 or 2 word answers, emotionless answers. Don't engage. Don't engage in the game. You know that they're playing a game. So stand grounded. That experience will be over at some period of time. Don't engage yourself in that. Don't explain yourself. If a narcissistic person again is telling a lie, why would you have to explain yourself over a lie? You know what I mean? Why if you didn't do something wrong, why would you have to explain how you didn't do something wrong? Just give more space, give more silence, Don't be reactive and don't personalize, because a narcissistic person is doing this in various ways. So it's not just you that they're treating in this way. It's really how they are able to connect with people. There's a distortion in reality. They are delusional people, and they rally other people to reinforce that delusion. So it's really not about you. It's about their disorder. It's about their dysfunction. And there'll be other victims. there'll be other people that they treat this way. So it's not about you. And so don't personalize. So the deep technique works. I've tried all of the techniques and I've been able to kind of make it on the other side. So the last little bit that I want to share is there are many philosophies of why narcissistic family dynamics develop, narcissistic dynamics develop in general, scientific and religious and spiritual and all different approaches. But one that I learned that I think really helped me remove myself from an abusive family dynamic was in in my graduate program. So I have a master's in professional counseling. Counseling psychology is the same difference. In my first semester, in my first year in my graduate program, we cover theories, the theories from different therapists or psychologists that have contributed to what the field of psychology is today. Freudian, Adlerian, there's so many, Bowenian, there's so many. So a similar pattern that I recognized is a lot of the prominent figures that contributed to the field of psychology also experienced a lot of adversity. They experienced family abuse, feeling inferior and having that dynamic where there's somebody that's superior to them oppressing them. But they were able to overcome that and contribute to tools that we use today. So I noticed that pattern, and I've heard in spiritual teachings that someone put in a position to be abused in a family or any dynamic whatsoever is someone that's being prepared for some sort of evolution. And take it or leave it, I'm not forcing my beliefs or this belief on anybody, but I've accepted it because I have a lot of spiritual trauma as well, a lot of lies and manipulation around that too. So, but I'll say there's two ways to kind of look at it. You can either look at your circumstance as this is something that was done to you, or rather something done for you. Because I think when we're faced with adversity, we're given a choice of either kind of staying stuck or overcoming. And so I do subscribe to the idea that people that are put in this situation that do any sort of standing up for themselves or walking away from the relationships, if you're safe to do that, anything of the sort to bring about autonomy and a sense of agency and individuation, separating yourself from codependency, being dependent on someone to make you happy or what have you. I do subscribe to the idea that those people are ascending. They're going through a spiritual evolution. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't look at these situations as just awful and horrible. I would love for them to not exist, but there is a silver lining, and you learn so many survival tools, and whatever you learn, you can pass on to others, and help them get out of these relationships or, be some sort of support. I'm not suggesting that people go save anybody because you can't. you can't save anyone. You can't help someone that doesn't want help or doesn't want to help themselves. You can't contribute to people more than they're contributing to themselves. It just doesn't work that way. You can love your family and you can love your friends and you can love people. But I think true love is truth, is telling the truth. And in narcissistic family dynamics, there's not truth, there's delusion. And you may be called crazy when you're pointing out the truth. It might be like this situation I'm in now with neighbors in the community that I am, that they're gaslighting me. Oh, there's nothing going on and there's nothing wrong. But it's all a projection because they're intimidated that a Black person could get to, live in a nice place, in a nice neighborhood. Forget, all the hard work that I did to get here, it's just, there's a sense of entitlement in this community and in narcissistic dynamics. And, there's ways to separate yourself from that, whether it's physically leaving or, psychologically and emotionally and mentally. You can use these techniques to keep a hold of yourself, of your connection with yourself, and find healing. And it takes time. Not everybody's happy ending will be them leaving these relationships. It didn't happen. It doesn't happen for everybody. And it didn't happen for my mom. It really didn't. She was gaslighted throughout her abusive relationship with my dad the whole time up until her death. So these relationships exist. Abuse exists, and it's quiet and it's hidden, especially in families. And there's just a great deal of secrets. So anybody suffering, anybody listening or watching and suffering through this, there's hope for you. And don't give up, Don't lose yourself. But you honestly can't. You can't lose yourself. It's not somebody else's to take, okay? It's not all done in vain. Honestly, there's a lot of good that can be done. Your blood family can always be that, but you can develop family with anybody. That's not limited to blood. So a narcissistic parent or sibling or friend or boss or neighbor or property manager or anybody of the sort, these people cannot provide what you need. And that's heartbreaking. But there are others that can. And I encourage everybody to look for those relationships and be as safe as you can. Remember that you don't deserve abuse. You are not a victim, even if you're being victimized. You're a human being. You're a survivor. You've overcome so much being in such toxic environments, and you can overcome more. So that's all I have to share. Thank you for listening. Thank you for holding space for me. I hope that helps anybody Even you, Nicholas. You're doing so awesome. And just keep going. Thanks. See you next time.